has heightened security and heightened anxiety on the streets here in the Fairfax district. A lot of folks, though, say they're keeping their eyes open for the blue pickup truck, as they call it. They're talking about this. Armed private security now patrolling the streets here in the Fairfax district, keeping their eyes out for any sign of trouble, especially after the apparent hate crimes that hit here over the past few days. Watch this. The Fairfax district, where private security now patrols the streets and the sidewalks after the apparent hate crime attacks against the Jewish community.
They see it even with this, this heightened anxiety, especially like you mentioned with everything going on. They see our vehicles going by, they see our guards standing outside of facilities. And overall, I think it does make everyone feel a little bit calmer, a little bit safer. And
not showing their faces for their own security. They are all ex-military, now part of the armed patrols of the Magen Am security. That's Hebrew for Nation Shield.
So we're out here dusk till dawn, some afternoons, making sure everyone feels a little bit better.
We just drive around to make sure that everybody's safe, everybody's getting safely to where they're going. And if we see any suspicious activities, then we call into the LAPD.
Patrols that bring a feeling of safety and security, especially after what appears to be the anti-Semitic attacks earlier this week. This video shows an Orthodox Jewish man running for his life after he's chased by two vehicles with passengers inside waving Palestinian flags. And then this attack by an apparent group of pro-Palestinian protesters beating diners outside this restaurant near the West Hollywood area. This man, one of those hurt in that attack.
I walked over to pick my cousin up off the floor, and whoever was kicking him stepped over him and started punching me. And luckily my cousin was able to get up and walked away. I took a couple hits to the face.
Escalating violence that now brings condemnation from community and religious leaders, all standing as one outside LA City Hall.
Violence against Jewish bystanders on the streets of Los Angeles is not acceptable. It doesn't further the Palestinian cause.
It is unacceptable that in 2021, communities across LA have to hire private security firms, armed security guards, in order to walk safely in our own neighborhood streets. That cannot be.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the report, and I'm your host, Robert Jordan. Everyone, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Okay, guys, I'm going to give you an update on the story I carried a few years back on most of my platforms. I believe I put them up on most. And it was about the IDFs in Los Angeles, the IDF veterans. People were heading into very dangerous times. I predict next year we're going to see blood in the streets. And it's going to be blood in the streets like we've never seen in this country before. But anyway, this goes back to June of 2021. IDF veterans hired by Magen Am to patrol LA Jewish neighborhoods. In the wake of increasing anti-Semitism in Los Angeles, patrols made up mostly of IDF veterans helping to protect Jewish neighborhoods. With a surge in anti-Semitic attacks in Los Angeles area in recent months, especially during the May conflict between Israel and Hamas, Israeli Defense Forces veterans have been helping police by protecting Jewish neighborhoods in the city. You see, it's a different story now after we've seen these atrocities in Gaza. These people are coming back here, okay, on our streets. The project was launched in April by Magen Am, a non-profit Jewish security organization, reported by the Daily Wire. Most of its team of 12 IDF veterans are lone soldiers, Americans with no immediate family in Israel who enlisted and served in the IDF. Others on the team are U.S. military veterans. The Magen Am Patrol currently only operates in the heavily Jewish Hancock-La Brea area neighborhood. However, they hope to hire 8 additional IDF veterans in July in order to place a team in the Pico Robinson neighborhood, which is home to the city's other main Orthodox community. People, you have to always read Jewish publications because they'll tell you what's coming next, because they're usually the ones that's initiating the action.
Yossi Eilfort is the founder and president of Magen Am USA, a nonprofit dedicated to training, empowering, and protecting members of the Jewish community. Welcome. Thanks for being here. How does it work?
How does it work? We think that the best solution for a community being safe is to take members of that community and empower them to be that safety layer. So everyone can be kind of their own first responder, and everyone has the strength that they need to make it through their day.
Well, we see some images of at gun ranges and literally training people how to use guns. So talk to us about sort of the intricacies of how it works.
Absolutely. So training is the biggest thing. When the more trained members of the community we have, the more people are prepared to deal with various problems. Firearms is definitely a component, and we've seen a crazy surge in that over the last 2 months. Over 800 people come through lectures about purchasing firearms, and we want to make sure they're doing it the right way. We want to make sure that they are properly, responsibly, going through the right steps and not just buying a gun and sticking it somewhere, because that could be dangerous. So firearms training, walking them through the purchase all the way through coming to the range with us, learning how to use it, how to be effective with it, as well as other, situational awareness training and knowing what to look out for and how to talk, de-escalation and avoiding any fights that we can. Obviously, we don't want people to get into fights, but we want them to have the tools to deal with whatever problems are facing them.
And you've got this very interesting background.
People forming self-defense groups, community policing, private security, any of those things. In fact, we have a right in this country to do so. And the Jews have a right to protect themselves. But we have to understand, this is a highly political group. They're very powerful over here, and they're involved in a war overseas. So now they want to involve the state in this. Okay? They want the LA City Council to pay for their private security. And here's the story from The Intercept. LA City Council considers paying former IDF soldiers to patrol its streets. Okay, people? Security group Magen Am staff also includes a former Navy SEAL who posted a video of waterboarding his own child. I seen that video. The LA City Council is considering whether to give public funds to private armed security patrols to protect its religious communities, following a protest against the marking of West Bank settlement properties at a LA synagogue last month that turned violent. In the immediate wake of the incident, City Council members introduced a motion to give $1 million to several Jewish security organizations that would expand their work around Jewish schools, religious institutions, and neighborhoods. Magen Am, a nonprofit that runs armed patrol services and firearm training programs for the Jewish community, was named as the recipient of a $350,000 in the motion. The group is largely made up of former Israeli soldiers, along with U.S. military veterans, according to the group's website and social media posts, and was founded by a former MMA fighter with ties to the National Rifle Association. The majority of the former IDF soldiers in the group are lone soldiers, according to several reports. The term for individuals with no direct ties to the state of Israel who immigrated there to serve in the nation's military. In other words, they're mercs, okay? And that's who's on the streets of Los Angeles.
בימים האחרונים זכינו לשטח את עזה, פשוטו כמשמעו. קשה להאמין, אבל לפני כמה ימים ואפילו לפני כמה שעות היו פה מבנים, היו פה מטעים, השטח הזה היה מלא, הוא שימש מחסה למנהרות טרור ולרקטות ששיגרו לכיוון ישראל. ואנחנו באנו לכאן להגיד שבמקום שבנו על מנת להרוס, אנחנו הורסים על מנת לבנות. במקום שרצו להעמיד חיים, אנחנו באנו להוסיף חיים. ולכן, במהלך כל הלחימה וכל העבודה שלנו כאן, אני כיוונתי לשם מצוות יישוב ארץ ישראל, שכל מה שאנחנו עושים כאן ישמש ליישובים שאנחנו נבנה בעזרת השם פה. והנה אנחנו זורעים, ומה שהתחיל בדמעה, בעזרת השם אנחנו נקצור ברינה.
Okay, it's very important, people, that we understand the global Jewish power structure and how they work together, because there's three different components to it. The American Jews and the Israeli Jews are the same group of people. One speaks Hebrew and the other speaks English, okay? One's located in Israel and the other's located in New York or California or wherever they're at. But they all work together, and they both together make each other powerful, and that's how this works, okay? Now, it's important to understand this because this is the way their enemies are going to see this. Now, this is last year in December, after the war has already started. The American Jewry raised $1 billion for Israel in the first month of the war, scholars say. The Jewish Federation of North America is responsible for $602 million, and the rest came from various groups and friendship associations, the Rudderman Program researchers estimate. Okay? So they're completely complicit in everything that's happening in Israel. Okay? This is what I want you to see so you can understand what's coming. North American Jewry raised about $1 billion for Israel in the first month of its war with Hamas. This is just the first month. The Jewish Federation of North America raised more than $600 million for Israel within a month of the outbreak of war. The remaining $400 million figure is an estimation of donations raised in multiple campaigns by other communal private organizations with the Jewish affiliations, including Friendship Association, supporting Israeli hospitals, universities, and emergency services. So I want you to see, people, that this is one enterprise, and this is what their enemies are going to see. Okay?
We are looking for babies, but there is no babies left.
What babies? Say that again. Say it again.
No, maybe I killed a girl, she was 12, but I'm looking for a baby.
Again, people, more complicity on the part of American Jews in this vicious war going on in the Gaza. This was a week after the initial assault into Israel. Not even a week the war was going on. And the Jews in Israel had called over here and told the Jews in America that things were about to get ugly and we need you to cover for us. Scenes out of Gaza will be hard to stomach, warns IDF, as it tells Gazans to evacuate. They knew what they were getting ready to do from the very beginning. Israel asked AIPAC and its followers to stick with the Jewish state, even as things get ugly, vowing to remove Hamas as it prepares possible ground incursion. A spokesman for the IDF urged AIPAC and its followers to stick with Israel as it attacks Hamas, even when the going gets ugly. And things have gotten ugly, haven't they? And the scenes out of Gaza will be hard to stomach. Yes, they are. Lieutenant Jonathan Conricus, the international spokesman for Israel Defense Forces, spoke Thursday evening to a website convened by the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, about what Israel expected from Americans, and especially those who support the pro-Israeli lobby. Okay? They're all complicit. It's all one group. They all have blood on their hands.
شيل يا عمي تشحطهوش شيل ده ادخل الاقصى تعال تعال جاي ايوه شيل هاتوا على الجنب هاتوا هنا يلا شيلوا قتلوا الله يا رب الدار ديروا يا رب الدار حسون يلا بس شيل صلوا من ربكم تعال شيل ابوي تعال تعال يا عمي
All right, more bad news and another example of just how much danger has already crossed our border, people. This article is from July, okay? And I'm going to skip through it because it's a lengthy article, and I'm just going to get to the meat of it. 3 Palestinian terror suspects caught after crossing the border illegally as overwhelmed agents warn. I probably let in terrorists. Okay, people, you have to assume they're already here. Hezbollah, Hamas, everyone. You have to assume they already have teams of people here. Border agents detained 3 Palestinian migrants who illegally crossed the southern border after they were found to have possible ties to terrorist organizations earlier this month. One of the migrants had salacious photos on their phone, including a picture of a masked man holding an AK-47 rifle. In addition to the 3 Palestinians, federal authorities caught 1 migrant from Turkey who was also suspected of having ties to terror groups. The migrants are among other groups of migrants who turned themselves in to the border agents at the San Diego sector. They just turned themselves in because they know they're going to be released. Now, I'm going to skip down. The San Diego Field Office Intelligence Unit assesses that individuals inspired by or reacting to the current Israel-Hamas conflict may attempt to travel to or from the areas of hostilities in the Middle East via circuitous transit across the southwest border. Foreign fighters motivated by ideology or mercenary soldiers of fortune may attempt to obfuscate travel to or from the U.S. or to or from countries in the Middle East through Mexico. Okay? So they already know this. They already know that these people are flowing from the Middle East conflict, the Gaza conflict, into the United States to keep the conflict going. Last month, ICE agents in Los Angeles, New York, and Philadelphia arrested 8 Tajik nationals believed to be tied to ISIS, all of whom crossed the southern border in recent years. The Department of Homeland Security has also been trying to track down 50 migrants who were brought into the U.S. with the help of an ISIS-tied smuggling organization. Do you want me to read that again? The Department of Homeland Security has also been trying to track down 50 migrants who were brought into the U.S. with the help of an ISIS-tied smuggling organization. They're already here, people. Okay, so this is what the warning is for.
A 35-year-old Palestinian migrant on the terror watch list was caught at the southern border this week, according to the New York Post. Omar Shahada was caught in Santa Teresa, New Mexico, as part of a group of 7. He was identified as being on the watch list during processing and is now going through removal proceedings. Border policy critics say the number of terror watch list suspects arrested at the border overall is concerning.
241 individuals on the terrorist watch list have been apprehended at the border. Ask yourself this question. If you're on the FBI terrorist watch list, why are you trying to sneak into this country? And so many of those of us in law enforcement are so worried that the next 9/11 is not going to be planes hijacked. It's going to be somebody that crosses over our southern border.
The memo on Shahada linked him to using explosives/bombs. His arrest comes weeks after 3 other Palestinians with possible ties to terror groups were caught in the San Diego sector. One of the men allegedly had a picture of a masked man holding an AK-47 on his phone, according to a report in the Post. It's unknown which terror groups the alleged suspects are tied to. Intelligence officials have repeatedly put out warnings this year and in the wake of October 7th about the potential ripple effects of war in the Middle East and how it could drive terror around the world.
While it is too early to tell, it is likely that the Gaza conflict will have a generational impact on terrorism. Both al-Qaeda and ISIS, inspired by Hamas, have directed supporters to conduct attacks against Israeli and U.S. interests.
There were 736 terror watch list suspects caught at America's borders last year. With 6 weeks left to go in this fiscal year, there have been 361 apprehensions. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
All right, people, you have to realize that the Palestinians are fighting 2 very powerful countries. They're fighting Israel and they're fighting the United States. They don't have airplanes. They don't have tanks. All they have is men. And now they have targets, people. You have to understand something. Our border's wide open. And when you have a brutal war that's going on like that, you cannot contain it in one place. They're going to seek out their enemies where they find them. Now they know our U.S. border's wide open. They can walk into the country and find Jewish targets. And that's what they're in the process of doing. And those are not my words, people. Those are the words of U.S. and Israeli officials. Here's just one example. August 15th, Palestinian illegal immigrant on terror watch list arrested at southern border. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agents nabbed a Palestinian illegal immigrant on Monday who was named on the terror watch list for an alleged previous incident using explosives and firearms. Border Patrol agents apprehended Omar Shahida, 35, at the border in Santa Teresa, New Mexico, according to a leaked memo obtained by the New York Post. He began traveling to the U.S. from Madrid, Spain in July. The memo obtained by the Post says he proceeded to Bogota, then to Panama City, and finally to San Salvador before making the final trek to the U.S.-Mexico border. And he just walked into the country, people. And you have to assume that there are teams of these people already here.
A luxury apartment building in Miami, Florida, was put under a security lockdown earlier this week. Residents in the tower received a cryptic message on their mobile phones from the building management and the police telling them to stay away from the windows in their apartments. Now, this apartment tower in Miami is no ordinary building where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's son, Yair Netanyahu, has been living since mid-January of this year. Israeli media also interacted with residents and reported that the building's messaging groups were filled with rumors about a bomb threat. The residents said that Netanyahu looked worried and afraid when he returned to the building a day after the lockdown.
All right, I'm going to finally close this one out, guys. But this was predictable to me, people. I reported this story last year. And I said at the time, we're going to get Israeli officials over here as the war drags on. Which means there's going to be more targets. These people are targets now. Okay? They're in a war of genocide. They've created some vicious enemies. And this is going to be going on a while, people. And now it will be going on over here. This was, again, last year. Netanyahu's son, highly vulnerable target in U.S. as he avoids Israel military duties. He left 1 month into the war. And the war has only gotten substantially worse as time has went by. Benjamin Netanyahu's Miami-based son, Yair, is at risk of being kidnapped amid high tensions globally, according to White House Insider. The 32-year-old is said to be working on a nonprofit charity work in Florida, while around 360,000 reserve soldiers have been mobilized to join the Israeli army, temporarily leaving their commitments elsewhere. They're dragging him for not being home fighting with his community, fighting with his country. Questions are being raised about why he has not joined his countrymen. And Howard Stouffer, an international affairs expert who spent 25 years working for the U.S. government, said he must take security seriously. Professor Stover believed it is foolish for Yair to be in America if he's not under protection by the likes of Israeli intelligence services Shin Bet or Mossad. He told the Daily Express he will be a target. I would absolutely expect that if he is not protected by Shin Bet or officers taking away resources from the country that needs him now. He is certainly being protected by Mossad, who are watching him, near him. If they don't want to have him know they're around, they won't be visible, but I'm sure they're watching him. I don't see how it would be possible for him to be in the U.S. and not be a highly vulnerable target for an attack or kidnapping. Okay, people? That's where I got all this stuff from. Okay? This is why everything is so predictable to me.